And welcome everybody to the Bangers and Classics podcast with me, James Rupper, and him, David Malloy. And David, what's going on at your end?
Well, I'm really very excited,
Are
James,
you?
because, well, absolutely.
Mm,
I only saw one sort of pseudo-classic car this week,
yeah.
which was a BMW E39 5 Series.
Oh, goodness me.
But it was in very, very good condition indeed.
Yeah.
It looks as if it was a year old. It was an absolutely fantastic order from what I could see.
Yeah.
So I was quite impressed by that. But the reason I'm excited is, of course, we're going to announce today, give some forewarning, I should say, of the
Yeah.
Bangers and Classics Awards.
Mm,
And basically, obviously, it's award season for some people. We've had the Oscars, etc.,
yeah.
the Golden Globes, and other things like that. But obviously, it's a highlight of the year's social calendar. It's the
Yeah.
B&C Awards,
Mm,
and we're going to hold it in front of a press gang. I mean, volunteer audience.
yeah.
And what we're going to do is have awards now. Here are some of them.
All
Well,
right.
potentially,
Mm,
the awards might include some, none, or all of the following: Best Car TV Ad, 1970 to 1990.
yeah.
Best use of hard plastics in a car. I
Mm,
like the idea of that one.
yeah.
The dullest car of the 1980s. Well, that's the MX-5, obviously, but
Mm,
I mean, I don't want to prejudge the jury in that.
yeah.
The most pointless motoring accessory.
Yeah.
Now, can we include people in that as well?
Yeah. I suppose we could, couldn't
We
we?
could do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, it's got to include the best Lee Marvin film.
Mm,
I mean,
yes.
absolutely. Nothing to do with the cars, but it's Lee Marvin, so he's in the
It's
podcast.
Lee Marvin, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. It's all we
Yeah. I
need.
mean, he's our spirit guide, isn't he, really?
Absolutely. And of
Yeah.
course, the Prix de James Repaire's beard.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's a special prize awarded by your beard.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure quite what it's for yet, but we'll sort it
No.
out as we go along.
All
And
right.
obviously, there'll be more on this soon. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to look forward to. Perhaps next couple of weeks we'll do that, James.
Oh, yeah. No, it'd be very good. Are we going to hold it anywhere in particular, David? Have you booked a venue?
Well, I have. It's a secret location,
Is
obviously.
it? Oh, right.
Yes, very
Mm.
much so. Attendance is strictly by invitation only,
Oh, right.
which
Yes.
probably means we won't get to go to it because no one
No.
will invite us. But there we go.
Uh,
It's like something I wrote a short story about a daft guy, and his idea of a solo concert was to turn up somewhere, pay the money to rent the room out, put his
mm.
equipment in, then lock the door, so he just ended up strumming to himself.
Yeah.
That was a
Well, that
solo
is
concert.
solo. That is, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's following the spirit of the word, isn't it? Absolutely.
yeah. So it's a
Mm.
particularly daft guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he may or may not exist in real life.
Oh, right.
Yes, but we'll deal with that another time. Anyway, what have you seen this week?
What have I seen? Well, I've been spreading joy, obviously, whilst I've been out and about in my car. Which
Right.
included a small boy. He was doing something. I can't remember what he was doing, but his face lit up when he saw me in the Mini, which was very good. A matchless rider. Now, anybody familiar with the old matchless motorcycles? There's a bloke on top of it who's obviously restored it or looked after it, and it was in fantastic condition. And yeah, he looked twice, so that was good. So it was good to see him. But the main news actually was that. Mercedes W114 that I mentioned the other week. I managed to speak to the old boy driving it. So that was quite good. His name is Harvey. He's into cars like we are. He says he has some Beetles. But this particular vehicle, I thought it might have some Cold War, some dramatic backstory. But no, in London about 16 years ago, there was an architect who had it, and it was the classic leaving a note on underneath the windscreen wiper. And I think this bloke was quite happy to get rid of it, because I'll tell you what, it is in a state. It is really really rusty. It's one of the rustiest
Mm,
cars I've ever seen that still works. But there you go. But he says he gets 40 miles to the gallon out of it. It is a diesel.
right.
Um, on a K plate, and yeah, but he was lovely to talk to. He's one of us. He likes cars. He's an American gentleman, and he may be one of the oldest people I've ever met as well. But he still enjoys driving, and obviously I'm trying to convince him to listen to the Bangers and Classics podcast. He wasn't very keen on that at all, because he said his hearing's going. So He didn't want to do that, but it was nice. But it's always good to speak to people about their cars because, as I think all of us know, in 9 cases out of 10, if not more, people are more than happy to do that. They're more than happy to talk about the car. They'll tell you where it came from, how much they like it, and stories and so forth. And he seems quite handy. He's got a stockpile of parts, he says, for it.
Body
It will.
panels?
Well, I'll tell you what, the body panels. I sent you a picture, David, which didn't show it in all its glory, really. But certainly a couple of the doors are different colours, the wings are different colours, and they're topped off with rust. and
Yeah.
uh, and his favourite feature of the car is actually the headlights. He likes the stacked headlights because, as he said, that those are on the most expensive cars and on the cheapest cars. But there you go. He's still using a banger and a classic. It is one of those great cars that does two in the same in the same breath effectively. It wasn't an over restored um, show queen. It was an everyday car that. I would probably say, from a professional point of view, needs some work, but he still manages to drive it around. He drives it very safely, so good luck to him. So good old Harvey, and if he does manage to listen, if he turns his ear trumpet up, all the best to him.
Indeed, absolutely.
Hmm.
Now, yeah, I mean, obviously straddles the line between being a banger and a classic, which is good. But are you sure there's
Hmm.
not a Cold War story to this? Maybe the note on the windscreen says something like, "The
Yeah.
eagle flies backwards into the midnight sun."
Well, that's right.
You
I
know, it's.
always the backstories I make up are far more interesting, David, than real life, and I'm going to stick to that one. So yeah.
I think you should. I
Hmm.
definitely think you should. But anyway, enough of backstories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we have to move
Yeah.
on now to a front story. Well,
Oh,
if there is such a thing.
yeah.
It's this week's Banger Classic.
Oh, really?
And this one is a car that bore pretty much little relation to
Hmm.
the concept car of just a handful of years, in fact, not even a handful of years earlier, that
Hmm.
bore the same name. It's the Renault Velsatis.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the concept was shown at the 1998
Hmm.
Paris Motor Show, and I know because I actually was there.
Hmm.
They let me in. I nearly got interviewed by French TV, but I did a runner very
Nice.
wisely.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Sur le Pont d'Avignon, etc. That'd be the limit of my French, I'm afraid. But
Hmm.
not to worry. Anyway, basically, you got a car, and its concept, guys, it looked really interesting, front
Hmm.
end and back end. The back end sort of previewed the Megane Series 2 and, of course, the Avantime.
Yeah.
And the front end wasn't really ever fully adopted by anything. Anyway, when the production car came out in 2001, it was an in-house rival to its avant-garde stablemate, the Avantime,
Hmm.
which was a strange marketing decision, James. It didn't do either any favours.
No.
I think they took sales off each other. And the Velsatis had a greater range of engines in the Avantime. It
Hmm.
had things like keyless entry you couldn't get in the Avantime.
Yeah.
And it's a feeling in some quarters that Renault pushed it over the Matra built Avantime.
Hmm.
I mean, whether or not that's the case, I don't know. But there was a feeling in some quarters. It outsold the Avantime, but to my mind, it was less desirable.
Hmm.
I have to say, they just didn't look that great. Got revised styling and just a grill, I think, really in 2005,
Yeah.
and production ended in 2009 after being a colossal flop.
Hmm.
Now, to me, Renault missed a trick here. They should have either productionized a concept car or stuck the eggs in the Avantime basket. And it really was a very curious decision to put essentially two avant-garde cars that didn't have a natural marketplace for either of them on sale at the same time, wearing the same badge, obviously the same mark badge. And I think it backfired spectacularly.
Hmm.
So there you have it. I know some people have them and love them, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But to me, being an Avantime Matra fan, it's a banger. What about you, James?
Well, I think you're probably correct, really. It is a slightly odd designed vehicle, really, and as you say, the Avantime was far more radical by comparison. This just looked a bit odd. It was meant to take on, obviously, BMW 5s and Mercedes E's and things, but it was never really going to do that properly. And as you say, they probably should have designed or productionized, as you say, the original concept because it
Mm.
it just looks odd. It just looks like a bit like a people carrier to me. Um,
Yeah,
but a slightly odd one. Yeah, it isn't terribly special, but I think they only made about 1,300 of them in right-hand drive. So if you see one, it's worth taking a picture because you probably won't see another one again. I can't remember the last time I saw one; would have been a long time ago.
yeah. I mean, really, it
But
was. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's true, James. It was really
mm,
just a French Vauxhall Signum.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go.
That's kind of what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Sadly, I quite like Renaults, but that one, no,
Mm.
I'm afraid not. So there we have it. We're agreed in this week because obviously the Ford Cat or KA has polarised opinion.
The classic car? Oh, right. Yeah,
No,
that's right. Yeah.
no,
Mm.
no, I can't even say what I think of it
The,
on air. I'm
the
not allowed to
classic
attach it.
banger. It's a classic banger.
Yeah, classically ugly purport. No, I'm not
Right.
even going to go there. It's let's just
Mm.
say that it's not for me.
Oh, okay.
I just couldn't. I want to salt it. I don't want to upset Cat or Katie owners, anyone I probably did last week.
Mm.
Mind you, not that it really bothers me either way. Anyway, we shall take a break there and come back with something entirely similar. This is Bangers and Classics, the least influential motoring podcast in the known universe. All right, so we're back after the break, and we've got the first of two challenges this week. Now, obviously, at Bangers and Classics, we're facing a constant battle
Mm.
to raise revenue to pay for beard grooming or beard care products from Mr. Ruppert.
Yeah,
So we've
quite
taken
right
on
too.
absolutely we've
Mm.
taken on some external work, haven't we,
Mm.
James?
Yes, we
So
have,
we
David. Yeah.
we have, yeah. We've been contracted by the makers of. It's a kind of sequel of the Magnificent Men and their Flying Machines. Well, this is set in the 70s using 1970s cars. And what we've done is they've asked us to pick some cars for the various teams: French, German, Italian, USA, and of course the good old UK. So I'll start from A, James, 'cause I've probably written this
Yeah.
down. I have written this down, what I'm saying. Got some ideas for them. For the French team, I thought, well, what would best epitomise, what would be the best choice for the Gallic team? I thought, Peugeot 504, well, it's really robust. Sold a
Mm.
lot of them in Africa, I believe.
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe a bit stodgy. Alpine A310 V6.
Right.
I thought, yeah, it's probably very good, but I'm not sure it's quite good enough. So obviously we thought Matra Rancho. Just for giggles,
Mm.
it's probably not going to last until the end of the race. It's probably going to break down somewhere in spectacular fashion or something like that. But who cares? And you can get lots of stuff in the back. You can get
Yeah.
lots of camera gear. You can pick up some hitchhikers. Loads of space for beer, that kind of thing. So yeah, we'll go with wine because it's French. They can do that. For the Germans, well, we had NSU Arrow 80. That's only for short range events, of course, because it would break down, obviously, it wouldn't last the distance. There was VW Jetta. I thought as a Q car, it's so dull, it would
Mm.
take the opposition by surprise. That would really confuse them.
Yeah.
And then I went for, BMW E21. The reason for that's a money spinner for us, because you've got one, and we
Mm.
can rent it out to the German team.
Oh, that's
Brilliant.
true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so the Italians, well, Alpha Sud, as long as it's a dry climate. If it's at all
Mm.
wet, well, forget that. It's not going to make the finish. Innocenti 90. And you can see the BMW 21 for details there. It's another money spinner because guess what? You've got one of
Mm.
those too.
Oh, good.
But then I thought,
Mm.
well, no, this is what we
Oh,
should
right.
go for. It's the Lancia Monte Carlo. It's on the basis of who gives a hoot if we win. We'll
Mm.
look damn stylish anyway.
Yeah.
We'll probably look even more stylish than the Rat Pack out in the night on the town. So
Yeah.
brilliant. So that's it for the Italian team. America, well, I had a good think about this. And AMC Pacer.
Mm.
I thought, well, Wayne's World spec car with a licorice dispenser in the roof. Won't win the race, but, what the heck. I thought, Lincoln Town Car. I was going to go for that because there's lots of room for duty free. You get as much duty free in it as you want, James.
Yeah.
Trouble is, it only came out in 1980, I believe.
Oh, right.
So in the end, I went for the Pontiac Firebird just for one reason. And can you guess what that was?
No, I can't.
Yeah, it's because Jim Rockford had one. There's no other
Oh, he
reason
did.
needed.
Mm.
Yeah, so no reason. So UK, I thought, well, for this, I'm not going to pick a car for my selection because listeners can do it if they want.
Yeah.
I went to the four parts of the UK rather, to pick a car for each part. So naturally, being Scottish and living in Scotland, I went for Scottish car first, and that was the Talbot Sunbeam TI. I thought, well, quite sporty, not an unattractive little car. Trouble is, the one I can get my hands on comes with a free Petula Clark. I
All
think
right.
I think her constant singing would drive the driver and the navigator mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was that. Wales, Gilbert Invader Mark III. It's stylish. It's got proven forward running gear, but there's a flaw. I think by a process of osmosis, it'll be unreliable because
Mm.
early examples of Triumph Stag door handles and later Morris Marina door handles, and that gives me concerns about reliability. Otherwise, great car.
Yeah.
So, so we have that. Um, and for Northern Ireland, well, that's a DeLorean DMC-12. Now you're going to say, James, but they didn't start making it till 1981.
Am I?
Well, you are now, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But of course, this is bangers and classics. And
Mm.
what we did is we have
Yeah.
found one that's got a time machine.
All right.
So we've used that time machine to go back and change history. So
Mm.
production now starts in 1979. So we can have one of those if we want. And for England, well, oh boy, there's lots to go wrong here. Triumph Stag, TR7, Marina, Allegro, etc., etc. But I thought, well, let's go for something
Yeah.
different. And not gonna, it has got some elements of BL in it, but it should be okay because there's also Buick in it. It's a Morgan Plus 8. It's a gentleman's tour, James,
Yeah.
and ideal for this race. So there you go. Those are some of my ideas for what we can come up with. Obviously, listeners can contribute as well.
Mm.
But what does Mr. Ruppert have to say about all of this?
Well, you went into this in quite fabulous detail, David, which I didn't do at all, really. I just thought I just wondered what I could see the various cast members driving. So obviously Terry Thomas, he'd be driving a Jaguar XJ, wouldn't he, with his sidekick? And I always get confused. Always get confused between the Flying Machine and Monte Carlo or Bus because they were, of course, incredibly similar films.
Of course, and it's a mad, 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 etc. world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
chuck that
yeah,
into the mix too.
that's right. But no, Jaguar XJ for the British Bounder, Gert Frobe in a Mercedes S from the from the middle '70s. You know, the typical Italian car. I know, yeah, you go Alphas and stuff, but actually it's a Fiat 500, really, which I would see someone driving. Same for the French. They're being a 2CV, obviously.
Well, of course,
Um,
they'd win.
uh, yeah, absolutely. Now, Japanese, weren't the Japanese in it,
They put
in that film? I'm sure they were. I'm sure there was uh, an inscrutable appearance by some Japanese aviators. I'm not too sure, but I thought there was, but I could be wrong.
Well, I did ask them, but they were very inscrutable with their answer.
Well, they were absolutely, but
Yeah,
yeah, they'd been a Datsun Cherry, of course, which you can get a more Japanese car than that. It's strange that when you think of American cars, yeah, I mean, my automatic go-to car, I think AMC Pacer these days, exactly like you. But it's really weird that you mentioned the Pontiac Trans Am because I'm writing something that I can
except I
type in.
didn't.
Well, yeah, but the Pontiac Trans Am, there was a Type K, which stood for cam back, and so if we all know what a cam back is, it's basically you're driving a bread van, aren't you? But there was one of these made, and
All
they
right,
did consider it for production, and it had quite nice. So they actually it was a bit like a Princess and GTE scimitar, but instead of having a tailgate, both of the windows on each side lifted up. It was a fabulous thing. But they did
all
think
right.
they were actually going to make it. Pininfarina were going to make it. But the significant thing is, and this is where people think we actually do prepare this show, and obviously we don't, do
The
we at
fools.
all? But two were made, and one of them had a bit part in an episode of the Rockford Files, incredibly.
Ah,
So, and that's one I really like to see. I probably saw it at the time, but I can't remember anything. So it'd be very, very nice. But it dates from 1977, this concept car. So that's what I'd like to see the Americans driving. And after that, I couldn't remember anyone else from any other part of the world who took part. But you've more than compensated for me there, David.
right. I mean, you're saying about Camback.
Hmm.
Didn't Casey and the Sunshine Band have a song about it? Baby Camback or something?
Well, yeah, could be. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
I
either
don't know.
that or Fat Larry's band. I can't remember.
No, they didn't know it's not Zoom they had. Yeah, I can remember. God, I do remember that song. Ah, that's a horrible
Yeah,
memory.
yeah.
Sorry, Fat Larry, but Not my cup of tea, guy.
Yeah, yeah. Fat Larry's no longer with us, quite surprisingly. But there you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, even so, I'm not taking any chances. Still apologising to the dude. Yes,
Uh,
what can you say, poor old fat man? Yes, 1982 was
mm.
Zoom came out. Anyway, take a quick break and we'll be back with more nonsense. You're listening to Bangers and Classics, home of the president of the Hammer Horror Actresses Appreciation Society. Oh, and some other bloke. So we are back for the final segment of this week's podcast. Ford Cat Owners Club, I can see them on the hillside there. We are waving their bags and flags, shouting abuse at me.
All right.
Yeah, good gracious. Never mind. Anyway, we have another challenge, James.
Mm.
The challenge was and is to buy a hybrid car to use as a daily. Budget is £6,000. There are no other criteria. No other
All right.
criteria. So you've got a free choice in this.
Mm.
I think with your well-known and well-established love of electric vehicles,
Yeah.
I think you've got to go first in this one.
Have I?
I think so.
Well, you say hybrid car, David. So if it's a hybrid, it could run on several different types of fuel.
Always going gas turbine,
So
folks.
so you could have a liquid petroleum gas car, couldn't you? Quite easily, and that would count as a hybrid in my book. So what I did, David, I actually travelled as I usually do at this time. And it's sort of slightly related to something else we're going to talk about, but I don't know about the running order until we actually do this. But I've gone to Italy,
Hey,
where I normally go at times like these, and there's a lot of LPG cars in Italy because they're quite sensible over there. And for 2,990 uh, euros in Milan, Italy, I could buy myself a 1999 Alpha 166 2 litre twin spark with an LPG conversion. So that would suit me. I'd be very comfortable in
crikey.
that. And yeah, there's a few LPG pumps near me, so I'll be fine. And that is me ticking the hybrid box as far as I'm concerned. So I don't
Blimey.
know whether I've cheated, David. I mean that your silence speaks absolute volumes on this. That you're very disappointed that
Oh,
I
no, I'm
haven't picked
shocked.
a slight electricity vehicle. But
I
no,
am
I can't.
shocked.
Yeah, I couldn't, in all conscience, go for one of those, even if it's partial. So yeah, it's an LPG Alpha 166. So yeah, I think I've won that one.
I can let you off with the alphabet. I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. Have you won this one? Because I went for
Mm.
a rather nice little car. It's a much younger car. It's
Oh right.
2010.
Oh
It's
right.
2010.
Mm.
We won't get much change in the Bangers and Classics budget. It's only a 10 quid off it. It's
Yeah.
on eBay and
Mm.
it's a Honda CRZ.
Yeah.
It's
They're all
not
right.
the
I don't mind those.
Yeah, it's not the GT model with the panoramic roof. Unfortunately,
Mm.
budget couldn't stretch to that, which is a pity. But what you get, of course, is you get a 1.5 litre petrol engine with a small electric motor. You pay zero road tax. You have no issue with the ultra low emission zones either at the moment, which is great. And it's a stylish little coupe. It's not particularly fast, but it's good fun. This one's white. It's right hand drive. Done 79,000 miles. Looks very decent in the photographs. And it is said to have a service history, though there's no specific details given of it. But the MOT history you can view online, and that is pretty good.
Mm.
So I would have to say, well, that's the one I would go for.
Mm.
It's a nice little coupe, but it's a nice, stylish way to get around. And obviously, it's reasonably good on fuel too.
Mm.
And you've got some green credentials.
Yeah.
So there you have it, James. I mean, obviously, you can see LPG's got green credentials too,
Yeah.
because it has.
Mm.
It's a byproduct. We all know it's about liquefied petroleum
It
gas,
is. Yeah.
and I think it's a big missed opportunity. Unfortunately, that boat has sailed now,
Mm.
but it's something that should have been adopted rather more substantially than it was back in the day, or rather more
Yeah.
comprehensively than it was. But there we have it.
Yeah.
So that's this week's challenge. Again, I don't know if there's a clear winner in that because I like the Alpha 166, but I think I'd
Yeah.
go with the Honda. That'd be my preference.
Mm.
But if you've got an opinion, listeners, let us know. Obviously, keep it within the bounds of good taste. After the abuse I usually get is terrible.
Mm.
Well justified, James, of
Yeah,
course, but
it is.
still
Of course, it is. Absolutely.
terrible. But anyway, we have a danger mobile to look at this week.
Oh, really?
And it's funny you mentioned Alfa Romeo
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
because, yeah, it is, because the danger mobile this week is the Alfa Romeo 164.
Hmm.
There's only 67, I believe, left on UK roads. And that is sad because is a very nice car indeed. As you all know, James, it's based on a Type 4 platform. There were along the cars from Saab, Fiat, and Lancia. And this was an Alfa Romeo designed and conceived before Fiat took over the company in
Hmm.
1986. By the time it came out, of course, in 87, Fiat had acquired Alfa Romeo. Obviously, what you get there is you get your traditional three-box shape, of course, but a nice aerodynamic three-box shape, I always thought. It is quite wedgy, but it looks to me to cleave the air quite nicely. Engines are mostly by Alfa Romeo. I think there was one turbocharged 2-litre Fiat engine, but some great engines. When you look at it, you had 2-litre twin spark, which some people swear about. So I'll start again. You had the 2-litre twin spark, which some people swear by. You had the 2-litre V6 turbo, which was common in the Italian market for tax reasons. That was a cracking engine. It's just a downscaled Bussel with a turbocharger. I mean, that would be awesome. I've never driven one of those. You get the 3-litre V6 Bussel engine, which was, I believe, available initially in 12 volt. Initially in 12 valve, nearly said 12 volt. And no, electricity cars, James, electricity cars.
Yeah.
And 24 valve form. Now, I have had a car with the 3-litre Bussel with the 24 valve, and it's a wonderful engine. And well suited, I think, to any car, basically. You know, you could have that in a Mini, it would still be a perfect fit for it. It got a late facelift 93, produced until 1997. But the most interesting version, James, is of course the Pro car. There was only one fully completed, and it was built for a racing series that never happened. Came along, I think, about 1988, and basically it's a silhouette car, but unlike most silhouette cars, it actually does look like the car it was supposed to be. And it used a mid-mounted Alpha 3.5 litre V10 engine, which was designed for Formula One. It looks great, but it sounds absolutely amazing. It's a fantastic soundtrack. Naturally, it was very quick. Apparently, it would do over 200 miles an hour. And I'm pleased to say that it still exists, and I believe it is still in running condition. And
All right.
sometimes they do take it out and
Hmm.
give it a little shakedown. There's all sorts of reasons to like these cars. But it's an Alfa Romeo, but it could be said in many respects to be the last of the original Alfa Romeos before Fiat came along. Now, I'm not knocking Fiat because under their tutelage, under their ownership, Alfa produced some great cars. 916 GTV with front wheel drive, fantastic car. And of course, who could ever forget the SZ? That's that's probably my dream car, James.
Yeah.
But you can't run to an SZ. You can pick up an Alpha 164 and waft around in style as long as you make sure it's maintained well and keep an eye out for corrosion. Nothing not to like there. What about you?
Oh no, I really like the 164. I'd like to get a weekly mention of one of my books in David, and in curb crawler actually. I looked at four, and so that is actually a substantial number of the survivors now. So I probably
Hmm.
saw quite a large percentage of them. But yeah, they were a combination of V6 and twin sparks, which I looked at. Also produced the single greatest line I've ever written, and which was spiked. But there you go. But there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, I looked at quite. I looked at a few. I do like them. Technically, I've owned the Swedish version of it. Several versions of those, and I rather like those. So I'm sure that was just as good. But yeah, um, I would encourage everyone to go out and buy one before they all fade away.
Hmm.
And the 166 I mentioned is sort of in a way a successor to that
It is,
slightly.
but it's not as good.
It's not as good, no.
No, I had I think
Mm,
I've told you this in the podcast before. I had the dubious pleasure of
mm,
driving my then boss's brand new 166 in really, really thick fog to go to a court appointment
mm.
that turned out to have been dealt with before I got there. Illegally
All right.
dealt with, I hasten to add, should never
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, that wasn't a lot of fun. If it had been the V6 version, I would probably have really
Mm,
enjoyed it, but it was a twin spark.
yeah.
Uh, shame on you, Saf, for not shelling out extra and getting the V6.
Yeah.
But he didn't. My recommendation would be if you got a choice with twin spark or the Busso or the V6, go for the Busso. You're not going to use it that much anyway, so the extra cost in fuel is going to be negligible,
Yeah.
and just for the soundtrack alone, it's well worth it. We've had to remove some material from this week's podcast because Mr. Muppet has told me about the line that was spiked.
Yeah,
And
but
I
it's
think
funny though, isn't it?
well, it might not
It's
be.
really,
If you accept a Genarian, it might not be.
well, I don't know. It's a very accurate description.
Um, yes, we'll have to leave it at that, folks, because I can't give you any clues on this.
Yeah.
Suffice it to say that no, I can't even go there either. Yes, he always surprises me. This chap, Mister
Oh,
Muppet. Yes. Oh dear God, where do we go with that one? Anyway, we'll try and
yeah.
have some other surprises for you next week, assuming I've recovered from the shock by then.
Yeah.
And until then, obviously, I wish you all the best. Take
Yeah.
care. Have a good weekend. It's a bank holiday when we're recording this.
Mm.
Won't be one by the time you hear it, but this weekend will be coming up anyway. So have a good one and take care. And hope you tune in next time.
Yeah. And yeah, if you want to stop me and buy one, you can buy an ice cream from me.
We should finish this with a plug, James.
All right.
Be nice to your dad. Give him lots and lots of nice presents. And why not, if he's a car fan, or even if he isn't, get one of our books.
Yeah.
Because, James has done a lot of books and I've done a few as well. And
Yeah.
between them, you might find something that would be an ideal present. I mean, you might find lots of ideal presents, but, we're not going to be greedy and ask you to buy all of them. Just if you want to buy one or two, that'd be brilliant. And they're also good for propping up tables,
Yeah.
for
They
draft
are.
exclusion, and for throwing at people you don't like. No, we would
Yeah.
never recommend doing such a thing.
No.
No, because after a few thrown at me, usually by the wife, but I'm not going to go there either.
No.
Anyway, that's us. Take care till next time.
Yeah. Bye bye, everybody.